So today we're going to be taking a look at this Parker guitar the customer brought in. Apparently he's not been able to play it for about 9 months. He'd had it to a local guitar store, repair shop, and he'd had it there 3 times. He said every time he took it back it got worse. So he's just not been playing it. So let's take a look at what his problems are. For one thing, we've got a very high action. And he says that it buzzes out up high. Oh, there you go. Okay. So let's look what we got here. Seems as though we have a huge bow in the neck. I measured that a while ago at about 25 thousandths bow. So what we need to do is actually adjust this neck enough to see what we've got going on, check out the rest of it. So I've adjusted the neck. I have it where it's almost perfectly straight. Let me check a few other things out. It did show up some fret problems up high. So we're going to need a fret dress on this. We've already talked to the customer. This has already been discussed, explained. I'm just going over this for you. So the neck is dead straight at this point. We still have some fret problems up here. Interesting thing here, this guitar was set up by the shop. So when we put the neck straight, the action is way too high down here. In fact, it's higher on the treble side than it is on the bass side. The nut is 2 to 3 times as high as it should be. The bass string is actually as high at the nut as it is at the 12th fret. So basically they didn't even recut the nut or anything. So here we go. This is another one of our tales from the dark side of repair. So what I'm going to do is fret dress this, set it up. Typical thing that we do in here several times a week. This shouldn't be any big deal. I'm going to get on with it and we will get back to you later. I have moved the Parker to the neck jig and I started to fret work on it, but I've been distracted by something else that came in. Since we're talking about dark sides of repair, let's take a look at this SG. Apparently it had been being taken care of by a high profile store in the northern part of the state, and it came in with a few issues. I guess the owner had it back to him a few times to have it worked on, and finally one of the other guys in the band says, hey, let's go get your guitar fixed. So they bring it in here. So let's see what we've got. We've had a very ugly neck repair done. You can see they've inlaid a big piece in the neck. Apparently the headstock's been broken. We have a huge bow in the neck. I measured this at probably about a 1/16 of an inch bow. Strings are very low up high. He said it was fretting out, which it is. So he got up here, got looking at it, and the pickups are almost touching the strings. One of the funny things I came across when the customer brought this guitar in for me to first check it out was I went to adjust the neck and found out that I couldn't. So looking a little deeper here, we find, of course, it looks like they've epoxied the neck together. We have some little chunks of epoxy in here. I've poked around at a little bit, knocked a few of them loose. I believe that the truss rod, nut, and all that has been glued together. So we'll check that out in a few minutes, see what we've got there. But again, I kind of find it funny that these 2 guitars were set up by professional stores. One in north central West Virginia, the other in northern West Virginia. And apparently their text didn't pass Guitar 101. So I'm going to check this nut out and I'll get back to you in a few minutes. Well, we've managed to get the truss rod working. As it turned out, it was like I suspected. It had all been glued together. I had to take the stop block out, clean up the rod, get everything where it's moving again. We've got a couple washers for spacers and a new truss rod nut. I'm going to have to sand out underneath the cavity a little bit more to get some better access for a wrench. There's still some epoxy piled up in there. But the neck is straightened up pretty well. I'm going to let it set for a couple days and see what's going on there as it settles a little bit, because it had, like I say, quite a bit of bow in it. I'm down now to where I have probably about 7 thousandths bow in it. I don't want to go any tighter with the rod right now. We're going to see what happens. So I'm going to get back to the Parker and we'll be back to this later. At this point, the Parker is finished. We fret dressed it, set it up. I cut his nut down, did everything that had to be done to get it to play right. We actually have a decent action at this point. It doesn't buzz out anywhere. I set his pickups. I even blocked his tremolo since he doesn't have an arm for it, so he won't be fighting that. So there we go. From a bad story to a success story. So that's one. Well, here we are. I managed to get the nut and everything loose and get it to turn, but as it turns out, as you tighten up the truss rod nut, it would pull the stop block for the truss rod into the neck. So I took it all apart, cleaned it all up, and this is what I have found. We have a big hole in here. Apparently they glued the headstock and everything back together and didn't fill anything in, so it's hollow underneath. Even better, a little light here. Check this out. We have daylight showing through. So, gonna have to make a plan here. It's a shame I didn't get to fix this headstock to start with. This is going to be ugly. I hope that we can actually save this for the customer within his budget, because he's already talking about, is it worth fixing? So we'll get back to you. Well, we're back with an update on this little SG Studio. Unfortunately, I've lost this one. I'm going to have to call it time of death, 10:30 a.m. Unfortunately, the owner doesn't feel that it's worth the cost to fix the guitar. I also believe that this guitar has probably been left in a hot car at one point and the fingerboard joint has slipped. We've got a pretty good bow in the neck that we can't get out. When I do get it out, it slips over a few days and goes right back to where it was. This is because of the issue behind the truss rod bearing nut being hollow from the previous repair attempt for the headstock repair. I could fix the guitar. We've talked about it. Basically what it amounts to is I'd probably have to re-slip the fingerboard, heat it up, bend the neck backwards, let it cool. Hopefully that would straighten out the issue there. Unfortunately, what I would have to do to fix the rest of it is completely redo the ugly headstock repair they've done here. There is probably quite a bit of wood missing in this area behind the nut where it's hollow. That would have to be dealt with. Then of course, you know, he's got fret issues, other issues. It would cost a little bit of money, probably about a third of what the guitar would have cost new, or maybe a little bit less. Unfortunately, if it was my guitar, I would fix it, but some people have a different view of value. I would think it'd be cheaper than buying a new guitar, but Some people look at things like a tool. It's disposable. So until next time, be well, be nice to others, play nice with others, and I'll see you later.